Well, this is I think that your question is why is the Quran important today? And I think in 2020 it has shot to the top of discussion, mainly because of the infamous interview that happened between Yasir Qadhi, who represents the West,
Mm.
and Mohammad Hijab on June 8th. So just we're talking about 5 months ago. And that interview, I think, exposed for the whole world just how weak and hopeless the Quran is when you're talking about preservation. This
Mm.
whole topic of is the Quran preserved?
Yeah.
Now, every Muslim who's watching, and those of you who have contact with Muslims and have friendships with Muslims, every Muslim that I've ever met, except for probably the liberals, but all your radicals, your orthodox, your nominals, yeah, all of these whole 99.9% of Muslims would say, and they have been saying it as long as I've been living, and I would suggest for 1,300 years they've said this, that the Quran is eternal, that the Quran has always
Yeah.
existed, it is not, and that it has not changed since it was sent down to Muhammad back in the 7th century. Not one word, not one letter has changed.
Mm.
And that's the narrative that you're hearing. Is it not what you're hearing, Korede?
Exactly. Exactly. That's
It's the
exactly what we've
narrative
been
I'm
hearing.
hearing. There's only one narrative, and that's it. And you can see the problem once you make that claim. Not one word, not one letter. Yasir Qadhi has said this for many, many years.
Mm.
Dr. Shabir Ali has said this for many, many years. They all say it, and they're still saying it even after that infamous interview 5 months ago, which shame on them for saying that, because once you make that claim, you're going to have to support it. And
Exactly.
that's where we need to come in and we need to say, you Muslims, you make claims about your Quran. You say it's eternal. You say that it's always existed. You say that it has always been preserved. You say that it received by a man named Muhammad, who didn't even read and write. All these things you're saying, we've always doubted it, but now for the first time, we can pretty much destroy those claims using your own material and dollars. And more than that, we can now look and see exactly where this Quran came from.
Mm.
Because before this year, before really almost June of this year,
Yeah.
well, no, that's not quite true. That's not quite true. I've known about this. People like Hatun Tash have known about this for 4 years.
Mm.
We were the ones that held up those 26 different Qurans, 26 different Arabic Qurans, all in Arabic,
Yeah.
not translations,
Mm-hmm.
not in Nigerian,
Mm-hmm.
not in English. These are Arabic translations, 26 of them. That was 4 years ago.
Mm.
That was back in 2016. And I think that's what blew it open. I have to admit, it was the world did not know about this until we went down to Speaker's Corner there in London. I don't know if you've heard, but they have now closed down Speaker's Corner.
Wow.
This is the first week. There is no Speaker's Corner this week,
Wow.
and for the next month, they're closing it completely down. And they're because of they're saying COVID, but that's not the reason.
Mm.
The reason they're closed it down is over this very issue.
Mm.
It's over this very issue.
Wow.
And
Wow.
remember, Corede, Speaker's Corner has been around for 150 years.
Mm.
For 150 years, Speaker's Corner has existed.
Yeah.
Rarely has it ever been closed down.
Mm.
And certainly not on freedom of speech. And yet that's the reason they had to close it down. Now they're saying, the police are all saying, no, 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 it has nothing to do with Hatun Tash. It has nothing to do with the fact she got knocked unconscious
Mm.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
That's not the reason. Has nothing to do with the fact that Tommy Robinson came with all his brethren last week and surrounded her and gave her flowers and chocolates.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with that. It's because of COVID. It's because of COVID.
Mm.
Well, yeah, this is the problem. You can see Islam has a real problem when you have to shut down Speaker's Corner
Mm.
because they don't want Hatun to hold up that Quran with holes in it.
Exactly.
And she's drilled holes in it. She's actually drilled holes all the way through it, 5 holes,
Mm-hmm.
because of one statement. And this is the statement that Yasir Qadhi said back on June 8th,
Mm.
that the narrative has holes in it.
Yeah.
The narrative about the Quran has holes in it. That means what we have been saying about the Quran has holes in it.
Exactly.
And so she's basically made holes in her Quran to support that point. Now, that's a brilliant piece. I mean, that's a brilliant piece of propaganda right there. It basically, that those holes in that Quran describe visually exactly what we've been saying, and I've been saying this for at least 25 years. We've actually showed it for the last 4 years,
Mm.
because before 2016 I didn't know that there existed any of these what we call qira'ats.
Mm.
Qira'ats mean readings, different readings.
Mm.
Muslim scholars knew it. Yasir Qadhi first heard about it 25 years ago when he was at Yale University.
Mm.
Now we find out that it caused him a crisis of knowledge. So, Qadhi, this is, in some ways, this has been a fun year. Now, I know it's not been a fun year for people listening.
Yeah.
And I know
Yeah.
for the vast majority of all of you who are listening to this broadcast, 2020 has been a year of hell
Yeah.
because of the pandemic.
Mhm.
And I understand that. And I'm sitting in my office and I can't travel all over the world like I used to. Nigeria, having this recording in Nigeria with you, Korede. That's where I should be, not here in the United States. But the pandemic has shut everything down. And so
Mm.
because it's shut everything down, we now have to use the internet, and the internet interjects, and sometimes it drops, and sometimes there's a bing,
Yeah.
bing, bing, and sometimes there's all kinds of technical problems. But thank God for the internet. Here I am, how many 3,000 miles away from you, and I'm sitting there watching
Exactly.
you smile as if you're right next door to me.
Amen. Amen for the internet. All right. So, Dr. Jade, thank you very much. Quite appreciate that. So would you want to get into the topic of discussion? The Quran in search of non-existent book. You're going to be having about 40 minutes to talk about this, and we're going to be having question and answer in between. Hopefully, while you're having your presentation, we're going to be having people that would want to ask questions. So if you're listening to this, while Dr. J is giving his presentation, please, if you have any question, you can write it down. Make sure you write it down. So immediately we're done with his presentation, we're going to be taking questions. And also, if you want to call in, you can also call in. The number to call in is actually on the screen right now. Okay, so that's the number to call in if you want to call in. And that's 23481 279999591. You can call in that number if you want to call in. If you're calling outside of Nigeria and you don't want to call because of the regular call could be very expensive, you might want to call the same number for WhatsApp as well. So we can do both WhatsApp and the regular call to call in into the program. So Dr. J, the boys in your court, let's listen to you on this topic of discussion. I'm excited.
Okay. Yeah, and this is I'm not going to go and repeat everything that has been repeated by Yasir Qadhi and Mohammad Hijab, except to say this. When you ask any Muslim, and this is where I would encourage Muslims, if you're listening, or any of those who are working with Muslims, whenever they make this claim that the Quran is, first of all, eternal, secondly, that it was sent down to a man named Muhammad over a 22-year period, thirdly, that it was compiled in complete form by a man named, or the caliph named Uthman in 652. And then fourthly, that the Quran that we have in our hand today, this book right here, here it is. This is the Quran we're talking about, this little blue book. This book is exactly the same as that which exists in heaven, that which was given to Muhammad, and that which was then compiled by Uthman. And that there's not one word, not one letter that is different. If you're going to make that claim, you're going to have to support it. You're going to have to support it. Now, it made all kinds of sense for Muslims to make that claim. I understood why. I mean, I've been working with Muslims for almost 40 years now. And I can understand why they have to make the claim, because when you open up the Quran, there are so many problems internally. It has all kinds of contradictions. We have counted about 200 contradictions, historical anachronisms. There's grammatical mistake after grammatical mistake, Arabic grammatical mistake. I'm not talking about translations. I'm talking about the Arabic. Has enormous number of mistakes. It has the wrong name for Jesus. It has the wrong name for God. It has the wrong name for all kinds of things. And that's why you can see so many internal problems, because there's only one complete story in the entire Quran. If this is the final word of God, and it's so hopelessly written, and it has such an enormous amount of internal, historical, and external mistakes, then you've got to find some type of credibility for it. You've got to try to,
Mm.
therefore, prove to people like me, skeptics like myself,
Mm.
and I would say the vast majority of the non-Muslim world today, is the
Yeah.
word of God. Because how could God make mistakes like this? How could God have
Mm.
given us a revelation that's so full of errors? How could God give
Mm.
revelation that where he can't even make up his mind on what he's saying? Contradiction after contradiction after contradiction. Not my God, not the God of the Bible, not the God that I see
Mm.
it is a supreme being. And if God really is God and he gives a revelation to humankind, he would give a
Mm.
revelation that first of all would make sense. Secondly,
Yeah.
would be internally consistent, and
Yeah.
thirdly, would be externally proven, but fourthly, would be a book that would be relevant for today, tomorrow, for every day, and to here, for there, and for everywhere.
Yeah.
And yet, you look at the Quran, it is not relevant for me in America. It's not relevant for you in Nigeria. It's not relevant for women. Look what it does. It debases women.
Mm.
It says that women, that a man can have up to 4 wives. What in the world, where does that come from? How could God allow one man to have 4 wives? What about a wife having 4 husbands? God forbid. 4 mother-in-laws, not me. I don't need more 4 mother-in-laws. But can you see how that inequality already built there into the Quran,
Mm.
that you have a difficulty with that?
Yeah.
That's in chapter 4, verse 3. It says that when a man dies, when a father dies, the son gets twice the inheritance of the daughter. That's in chapter 4, verse 11. In
Mm.
chapter 4, verse 24, it says that a man can have as many concubines, that's women that he's bought as slaves of war. That
Mm.
which his right hand possesseth. That means a slave. He can have as many of them above and beyond the 4 wives that
Mm.
it says in verse 3.
Yeah.
And then it says in that same verse, verse 24, that a man can give a woman her mahar. That means muta marriage, her
Yeah.
mahar. And muta marriages can be for 3 hours or can be for 90 years. That means he can basically prostitute other women and have them come and have sex with him for one night,
Mm.
or up to 90 years, depending on how much he gives her. And then it says in verse 34 of that same chapter that if a woman disobeys her husband, he can first admonish her. Then, if that doesn't work, he can then throw her from the bed. And finally, he can beat her.
Mm.
Chapter 2, verse 282, and it says that a woman has half the testimony in court as a man. You
Mm.
continue on that same chapter 2, verse 223, and it says that a woman or wife of a man is his tilth, and a man can plow
Mm.
his wife anytime he wants. Well, that's called marital rape,
Mm.
and that is illegal in America, and I'm sure it's illegal in
Mm.
Nigeria. You see how
Well.
hopelessly out of tune it is with the 20th century. But that's not bad enough.
Mm.
Look at verse 230 in chapter 2. In chapter 2, verse
Mm.
230, it says that a man can divorce his wife simply by saying talak, talak, talak 3 times. If after the
Yeah.
3rd time he says, I divorce you, that's what talak means.
Yeah.
For the woman to come back, for the wife to come back and be his wife again if he decides to change his mind, not the man, but
Mhm.
the woman who has been divorced by the man, the woman has to go down to another man, another believer, have sex with him, have a
Wow.
marriage, then have that marriage annulled by that man when he wants to, at what time, and only then can she come back to her original husband. Now, where in the world do you hear that anywhere in the Bible? Thank God we don't have verses like this in the Bible.
Oh my.
What a denouncement of everything I know about marriage. That's a destruction of marriage right there. And
Mm.
what does it say about the woman when it's the woman who got divorced and it's the woman who has to give her body to another man so that she can get back in relationship with her husband again?
Mm.
In Britain right now, that's known as hajj. And halala marriages, they now, if you want to go and have sex with another man, you can't. They now stipulate that it must be with an imam that you must have sex with, and it costs
Wow.
about £1,200 to have these halal marriages, because the imams are the only ones that will sign a certificate of divorce so the woman can come back to her husband. Now, can you see how stupid this sounds? I mean, to me, even when I'm talking about it, I'm sitting here and cringing, and I'm thinking, I can't see. I don't know. I've never heard of such, not only such a destruction of marriage, but also such a eradication of the importance of what a wife is to a husband.
Mm.
To me, it just sounds like filth. It sounds like a woman is nothing more than chattel, to be hit, to be beaten, and to be empowered with, or empower over, and to be given and taken depending on what is the whim of the man. So can you see how these internal problems for the Quran, they need something to support it, something to substantiate it.
Yeah.
And that's why Muslims have been struggling. They have been really struggling because there's so much inside the Quran that is not relevant for today, especially in the 20th century, and especially in Nigeria, and especially here in the United States.
Yeah.
And that's why they have gone to this new narrative. It's not been new really, but this narrative that they think is the strongest one they've got, and that is, well, we know that this book is eternal. I don't have to discuss it. If I can just say it's eternal, that it comes from God, and if I can put it up on a pedestal so high where I can say that not one word and not one letter has changed, then I don't have to really argue these points. I don't have to argue whether it's relevant or not. I don't have to argue whether it's violent or not. I don't have to not argue whether it denounces and eradicates any authority or any credibility for women or even my wives. I can just sit back and say, the Quran speaks for itself. And that's exactly what they're doing, because the Quran does itself. Because this argument of preservation is not from men's lips. It is from the pages of the Quran to the Quran. In chapter 85, verse 22, it is the Quran that says, in chapter 85, verse 22, that it is eternal, that it is on preserved tablets, that are uncreated. So that argument comes from within the Quran itself. It's in chapter 10, verse 15, that Allah will, that the words of the Quran cannot be changed. So that's internal to the Quran. In chapter 18, verse 27, it says that nobody can change the word of God, not even one word. And then it says in chapter 15, verse 9, that it is Allah himself who will preserve it, who will guard it, who will make sure that there are no changes. So it's not the Muslims that have made this up. Listen, don't blame the Muslims. Don't blame Yasir Qadhi or Mohammad Hijab. They are not the ones that came up with this somehow and said, oh, let's do this. Let's put this argument out there because then we don't have to protect it. It is the Quran itself that makes that argument. So in some ways, well, in many ways, the Muslims, God bless them, they're hung. They have no place to go but to defend it, but to talk about preservation. So preservation is internal to the Quran itself. In chapter 10, verse 15, in chapter 15, verse 9, in chapter 18, verse 27. Write those down. Memorize them. Keep them with you. Put them in your Quran. Write them in the front. So whenever a Muslim says, well, no, we know it's written. We know that it had to be written by men. They will never say that. Why? Because the Quran doesn't allow them to say that. It cannot be written by men if it is eternal. Okay, that's the first point. You cannot have anything that can be manipulated by man. That means can be accreted or deleted or corrupted if it is eternal. There's the first problem. Secondly, if it has not changed, and it is impossible to change because of chapter 10, verse 27, then how can any human think that they could go against what the Quran is already saying? So if there's even one word changed or even one letter changed, that is human intervention. Can you see the second problem, Qadhi?
Exactly.
There's a second problem. So immediately, any notion that there has been any human intervention eradicates the Quran itself, because it eradicates its own authority, it eradicates its own credibility, because then now you're taking the Quran, which is eternal, on those preserved tablets, and you're bringing it down to earth, and you're bringing it down to man's manipulation, man's intervention, man's accretion, deletion, and corruption.
Okay.
That is anathema. And then fourthly, and this is something that really sticks in the goat of almost every Muslim I talk, if there's any notion or any hint that men have done anything to the Quran, have changed one word or have changed one letter, that eradicates Allah's authority. Because Allah himself said he would guard it.
Exactly.
And who are we as humans to suggest we can do other than what Allah has demanded or Allah has authorized? So can you see, coming and going, the Muslims are caught. They're caught in the middle. And I feel so sorry for my Muslim brethren. I feel so sorry for you. We don't have this problem with the Bible. I have never said the Bible. Have you said it, Corey? Shame on you if you did, that the Bible is eternal.
No, I've never said that.
Never say that. No, we would never say that it's written on eternal tablets that live in heaven, that exist in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
We would never say that it was sent down by an angel piecemeal over 22 years. We would never say it. We know it's written by men, but from its very nature, from the very beginning, we've said that. We've always been honest and transparent and truthful about this. We even know who the authors are.
Exactly.
We even put their names above in front of the books of many of the books they wrote. We know it's inspired by God. See, inspiration. Now that makes sense.
Yeah.
That I can defend. Because I can look at the Bible and I can say, look at anything. Can you show me anything in the New Testament? I'm not talking about the Old Testament, because in Matthew 5, verse 17 and 19, it says very clearly, that talks about, for we do not destroy, it is not corrupted, for that the word of God cannot be corrupted. And what it says very clearly, that he has not come to destroy the law.
Yeah, but to fulfill it.
But fulfill it. And that's the operative word. But fulfill it. And then it gives, what the great thing about my Lord Jesus, and the love thing about the gospel, is that my God then has, you see right there, Matthew Wright, one thing after another, 6 different examples of how it's fulfilled. You have heard it say, there's the Old Testament law, but I now say, here's the new covenant, here is the new category, here is the new paradigm, here is the New Testament. Sure, you've heard it say in verse 43, to love your friends and hate your enemies. But I now say, in verse 44, to love you. Ooh,
Amen.
And so that's why the Bible is such an easy book to defend. Internally, there is no discussion. I don't know of anybody that really says that it's irrelevant. Because have you heard anything that anybody say that Jesus is irrelevant for today? Have you ever heard this one?
Not at all.
I'm not. And that's why I love it. I mean, Muslims come up to me all the time and they say, we absolutely love Jesus. We love Jesus more than you do, Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Why can't you love Muhammad? And I say, exactly. What's not to love about Jesus Christ? What's not to love about his gospel? Everything he said, everything he did is as relevant today as the day he did it 2,000 years ago.
Amen.
Now, Muhammad, on the other hand, you got about an hour? I'll just tell you one thing after another that's irrelevant about Muhammad. And we can go all hour just talking about all the major errors that he did, the things that he said that I would not want to do today or even say today. I just gave you some examples with women just there in chapter 4 and chapter 5. I'm sorry, chapter 4 and chapter 2 of the Qur'an. So can you see then why they have to sit back on this argument of preservation? It is absolute for them. For every Muslim, they dare not walk away from preservation, because if they walk away from preservation, then they've got a real maelstrom of difficulties as to whether or not this book is even reading it today. To say nothing of the fact, what about following its precepts? Start beating your wife. Yes, divorce her if you want to. And if you want to get her back, have her have sex with another man and make it sure it's in Iman. Let her pay the £1,200 and then come on back. That's about $1,500. And then come back and we can be reunited again tomorrow. So can you see how idiotic this all sounds? Why they don't want to have these type of discussions? And I'm not even gone into the violence in the Quran. But when you come back to the New Testament, and when you look at the New Testament, here is a book written by men. We make that claim. Yes, it's written by men. Matthew wrote Matthew, Mark wrote Mark, Luke wrote Luke, John wrote John. Is it preserved? We don't have the originals. So how do we know? We know that 99.9% of it, we can pretty much be assured, is exactly as Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John wrote. Because it's really that's where the battle is with it's the Gospels. We're not talking about the book of Hebrews or Paul's letters. We're really talking about the first 4 books of the New Testament that the Muslims are attacking. And they are trying to say that these are not from God. And we're saying, hold on, man, we never said that they were written by God. We were saying they were written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Read my lips. Inspired by God. There's the difference. And that's why, in some ways, you can say, just open up its pages and show us anything that's irrelevant for today. Do you see anywhere in the gospel of men being allowed to beat their wives? No, you can look at Paul's letters. 1 Corinthians 7, we're to love our wives and to love their bodies. Look at Galatians chapter 3 and just take Ephesians chapter 5. We are to love our wives as Christ loved the church.
Yeah.
To be willing to give them, to lay down our lives for our wives as Christ laid down his life for the church. Show me something, show a verse, show me any reference like that in the Quran. And so you can see when you open up the Gospels, when you open up Paul's letters, when you open up the New Testament, what is there argues for itself.
Exactly.
It is so relevant for today. It's so relevant for every day. It's so relevant for here. It's so relevant for everywhere that we don't even have to have that argument. So therefore, it comes down to preservation. And so what Muslims say is, you can't show me the original of your Bible. We can show you the original of our Quran. So I say, okay, show me where that original is. Well, okay, we don't really have the originals. They don't exist. We should have. And what you can see is Muslims are starting to backpedal now. They're starting to backpedal.
Exactly. Exactly.
They realize that they don't have any original manuscript at all. And that's the first question I asked. I said, you have been telling me now for 40 years that you have the original Quran, but we don't have the original Bible. That's the first thing you've told me. All right, where's that Uthmanic text? I'm not even looking for a text from Abu Bakr, because I know you don't have the Abu Bakr, but you're telling me that you do have Uthman's text. Show me it. So they always show me this one right here. This is the one they always start with. This is the top copy. This is the entire top copy. I've got it right.
Wow.
That's the entire top copy. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Page after page after page. Now, if you look at it carefully, you'll see that it has no dots and it has no vowels. Can you see that?
Exactly.
I know
exactly.
I'm just putting this up to the screen, but it has no dots and no vowels. Here's an entire page missing. Ooh, wait a minute. I thought they had the entire Uthmanic text. Entire page missing. So it's not complete.
Wow.
And here you can see they've added some more lines here. You can see where every once in a while, you'll see words that are added here. You'll see erasers here. I mean, I could go on and just unpack this. This is about 99% of the Quran. And they say, and they have always said that this is the Topkapi, which is the Topkapi Museum there in Istanbul in Turkey. That this is the Uthmanic descent. Here's one of them, right? Here's the first one. Right. I'm going to show you another one. I've got 2 or 3 of them right here. These are big Qur'an, so they're hard to hold. They're enormous.
Oh my God.
This one is the Petropolitanus.
Okay.
Now, can you see? This one is the Petropolitanus. This is the one that is in Paris, in the Bibliothèque Nationale.
Okay.
The entire Petropolitanus. I've got the entire Petropolitanus. These are not cheap, by the way. Don't try to buy them. You're not going to be able to get them. You can't find them anywhere. But can you see? This is a completely different text. Have you noticed that? It's a completely different script. Not text, sorry. Completely different script. It also doesn't have any vowels. It doesn't have, and you can see there's a word has been added up here.
Yeah.
Okay, there's another word that's been added. Every once in a while, you'll see words have been added here and there. Hold on a minute. I thought every Quran is exactly the same without any word, any letter difference. Right? Haven't you been told that over and over again?
Yeah, that's what we've been told.
I've just showed you 2 examples. Over there, I've got the Ma'il. The Ma'il only goes up to chapter 43. Though the Petropolitanus that I showed you here is only about the Quran. The Topkapi, the first one I showed you, it is about 99% of the Quran, but it has 2,270 variants. That's what we've been told officially.
Wow.
That now is not correct. And I'm not permitted to tell you what we now know about the Topkapi. That's coming out in a doctoral thesis. And the man who's doing the doctoral thesis, I'm in connection with him, and I have to let him come out. It's going to be his work, so hold on. So what's the date for these manuscripts? Are any of these Uthmanic? Not a one.
Wow.
Not one of them is from the 7th century. Not one of them is from 652. You notice that there are different scripts, right?
Yeah.
They actually look different.
Yeah.
So you can see already that they're not written at the same time, not by the same hands, nor in the same area. And this is now all coming and is starting to be uncovered. And so this is the whole manuscript argument that Muslims do not want to engage with, because they've made so many claims for so long that all these, that they can come up with the entire Quran. These Qurans that I'm showing you, I have 3 of them here. Actually, I have 4 of them right here in this room. 4 of the most authoritative Qurans of the 6 major ones, and there's 4 more. So about 10 Qurans that they now are putting forward as the most authoritative. Not one of them is complete. Not one of them agrees with each other completely. And not one of them agrees completely with this Quran that I have in my hand today.
That's the house.
This is the Hafs.
Yes.
This is the official one. this is the official Quran. How can it be unofficial unless there's something that was unofficial,
Mm.
right? By saying this is the official one, this is the chosen one, this
Mm-hmm.
is the canonical text,
Yeah.
that means there must be some that are non-canonical by
Mm-hmm.
definition. Am I
Mm-hmm.
correct?
Yeah, you're right.
So let's get to that question, because this is the question that came up this year. And it has to do with this whole notion that there was a Quran at the time of Uthman that. Now, let's just back up. Let's just back up. According to al-Bukhari, this guy right here, and this is the reference that you need to go to.
Yeah.
Al-Bukhari, volume 6, book number 61, hadith number 509 and 510. So
Yeah.
hadith number 510 I have right here. That's hadith number 510, okay?
Mhm.
Right here in Arabic.
Yeah.
There's the English translation.
Mm-hmm.
So I listen, because of the fact I can't show you my PowerPoint. I'm just going to hold it up to you. You're going. By the way, Qadhi, I'm going to send this all to you. You're going to have all of these slides. All
Thank
these
you.
slides will be available to you. And if people who are listening want to get these slides, they can hammer you with it. Please don't bother me. I do not send this on the internet.
No
You have
problem,
to go
Dr.
to
J.
Qadhi.
Now, guys,
You'll have
if you
it, right?
want the slide, please, after the program or tomorrow, please, you can inbox me or send me an email, and then I'll try and get it across to you. Thank you very much, Dr. J, for that. You're so gracious.
Yeah. So we'll get these to you so you can hear them and just print them out yourself, and then you just show them to your Muslim friends whenever you get into discussion. So what we do know, and what the al-Bukhari says, and this is the story, and this is the official story that every Muslim knows, that every Muslim now reads. And it's the only narrative that's ever been, because this is the only one out there. And it says this. It says that when Muhammad died in 632, the Quran had not yet been written down.
Yeah.
There was a problem because Abu Bakr became caliph. There was a battle called the Battle at Yamama, and many of those who had memorized it died in that battle. Now, we know from the traditions that 70 died in that battle, which caused a crisis. Immediately there was a crisis. And you can see, for me, I was like scratching my head when Muslims say we don't have to have any manuscripts. All we need is memorization. No, obviously when only 70 died and they had memorized it, that was the first crisis, proving that memorization is not good enough.
Exactly.
You need to get it written down. Because if all those who had memorized it died, there's no Quran, right? That's why he called in Zayd ibn Thabit immediately. That's in 632. 20 years later, then, well, actually, what Zayd ibn Thabit did, who is the secretary, he wrote it down, gave it to Abu Bakr, who gave it to Umar, who then gave it to his daughter, Hafsa, who used to be one of the wives of Muhammad, one of the 12 wives of Muhammad. 20 years later, Uthman comes to power. There's a new battle, not the Battle of Yamama. This is the Battle of Azerbaijan. And he sends a lot of his lieutenants and his soldiers up to the Battle of Azerbaijan. They are met there by people from Iraq and also people from Syria. So they're met there from people who come from Damascus and people who come from Kufa and also Basra. Basra, Kufa, and Damascus. They all come together way up there in Azerbaijan. And they're battling against Azerbaijanis, and they go to a mosque to pray after the battle. As they're praying, they are praying references, they're praying material from the Quran. And as they're listening to each other, those from Medina turn right and left and say, what are these guys saying?
Yeah.
That's not the Quran. He's not saying the Quran. That's not the Quran I know. And they start fighting them. And they start having fisticuffs. So Hudayfa, who's in charge of the Medinans, quickly comes back down to Medina. And he goes into the throne room where Uthman is sitting. And he's infuriated because he's just come from fighting these other supposedly Muslims who have different Qurans, not their Quran. All right? So here's a second crisis that now arises. We don't just have one Quran. We have a multiplicity. We heard many different Qurans being recited there up in Azerbaijan. So he turns to Uthman and says, we must make one Quran, just one Quran. Because we must not be like the Jews and the Christians who have many different Bibles. We cannot be like that. We must make one Quran. We must make the Quran in the Qurayshi, or the Qureshi, dialect.
Yeah.
The Quraysh dialect. What is the Qurayshi dialect? Your name's very similar. What is this Qurayshi?
Okay, so the Qurayshi dialect is actually the dialect of the tribe of Mohammad.
The Qurayshi tribe. So
Yes.
it's a place, right?
Yeah.
So it's a group of people that live in a place in
Mm-hmm.
Central Arabia, because Muhammad never really went outside of Central Arabia, except for traveling, but he didn't live anywhere other place between two cities. He only lived in two cities,
Mm-hmm.
Mecca and Medina. So
Mm.
it's Mecca and Medina. That's for the Qurayshis. That's the Qurayshi dialect, right?
Yeah.
So that suggests to you that Muhammad only spoke one dialect,
Mm. Just one.
right? Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
and that suggests to you also that the Quran that was revealed to him must have been in that dialect.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true.
Which suggests to you, and it suggests to me, that that dialect must be the dialect that's in heaven.
That's true.
Okay, so can we now be agreed upon the fact that the dialect that's in heaven, that the Quran is written on, is the Qurayshi dialect?
Yes, that's what we can say. That's actually what the narrative is driving at.
Define the Qurayshi dialect for me. What do you mean by dialect then? Is this a written text or is it an oral dialect?
Well, according to the narratives, it's not written. It's actually oral. We would not. Nothing is
Okay,
being written
so it's
down.
nothing written down,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And why is it? Can it not be anything written down? You know the reason? In
No.
order to have dialect, do you know Arabic at all? Have you studied Arabic?
I just wanted to start taking lessons this year. No, I've not started.
Okay, well, let me just show you this book again.
Okay.
If I were to show you the top copy here, and I show you one page from just any page, random page, and I
Okay.
open it up to you,
Yeah.
if you're an Arab speaker, you're not, but if you're an Arab speaker, could you read that?
There's nothing there.
You could try to read it,
Yeah, but there's no
but it would be
dialect
very
there.
difficult to read.
There's no
And
dialectical
why could you not read
marks.
it?
Yeah.
Why could you not read it?
Well, because it can be read in so many ways. You don't know exactly what it's talking about because there's no markings that help you to know what exactly it's talking about.
Exactly, exactly. What people don't realize in the 21st century is that Arabic if you're looking just at this is nothing more than what we know as a consonantal text.
Exactly.
This is known as razm in Arabic. Razm means only consonants.
Yeah.
You notice there are no dots above them
Yeah.
or below the
Yeah.
lines, and there are no vowels. Now, in Arabic, there are three vowels. You have the dhamma, which is the vowel. You have the kasra, which is the e vowel. The kasra is always written below the line. It's just a slash. The dhamma is a little curly Q that's written above the line. And then the last vowel is the fatha, which is the a, which is written above the line. So the dhamma and the fatha are written above the line. The kasra is written below the line or below the letters. Okay? Three vowels.
Yeah.
U, E, and A. Now, on top of that, when you look at this, there are only 16 letters here.
Okay.
In all of these words, there's only 16 letters. Today, however, the Arabic has 28 letters. 12 more letters, almost double the number of letters that it had back in the 7th century.
Wow.
There's the problem. And that's why Muslims haven't thought through how stupid this idea is that there's a dialectical difference in a written text. There were no dialectical differences in the 7th century. This is the 8th century. This one here is the 8th century, the Al-Musaf al-Sharif. This is the Quran that comes from the Topkapi. This is an 8th century Quran, and it has no way of reading it. You cannot read it to understand what you're looking at. Now, I have heard many Muslims say, "Oh, I can read it, Mr. Smith." I say, "Okay, read it right now. Tell me what it says." And then they sit and they say, "Well, not today, maybe tomorrow." You cannot. Yes, there are certain people that can read it globally because you can see the context and if you know the Quran by heart,
Exactly.
you just read what you know by heart from that verse. But to read it without looking at it, without knowing the context, and without looking at what verse it is, no, you can't. And that's why immediately they needed to do something.
Yeah.
And that's why they started to add dots to it.
Yeah.
And there are 5 dots that they added to it.
Yeah.
They had to put a dot above the letter. That would make it a na
Okay.
or an n sound.
Okay.
2 dots above the letter would make it a ta or a t sound. 3 dots above it would make it a tha or a th sound.
Okay.
1 dot below it would make it a ba or a b sound. 2 dots below it would make it a ya or a y sound. Okay? Na, ta, tha, ba, ya. 5 different letters Now people were happy because with one letter just of a smiley shape like this, and most all the letters in Arabic are from a smiley little bowl shaped smile. That's what all letters, not all, but most of the letters, most of the 28 letters are of that. And by putting dots, three dots, either three dots above or two dots below, you can have 5 different letters. Okay?
Yeah.
Solved. Everything's solved, right?
Yeah.
No, it is. Because none of these have dots on them.
Wow.
So
Dr. J,
that he
Dr. J, just
comes back. And he says, we must make the Quran in the Qurayshi dialect. That means we must write it down in this dialect. But in order for them to even know what a difference in a dialect, you have to have dots.
Exactly.
You have to have vowels.
That's
There
true.
were no dots and vowels in the 7th century.
Wow. Wow. Now,
These are 8th century manuscripts. They don't have dots and vowels.
wow. Now that makes the narration, it's like a reduction you're trying to make now. It sounds anachronistic. When you don't have dialect way back during the time of Mohammed, and then we're having a narration that is saying that it has to be written in the dialect of the Qurayshi. I mean, how do you reconcile something like that? Now, the first time you brought...
I'll tell you how I reconcile on it. You did it with one word. It's called a redaction.
All right.
This is a redaction. Okay? Very simply. Who wrote this? Who wrote this?
Okay, the Muslims?
No, who? What's his name?
Oh, Buhari. Yeah. Buhari,
okay.
Yeah.
When did he live?
Where? You mean where he lived?
When? What year?
When? I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But I can remember he lives about 200 days after Muhammad.
Here you go.
Oh, great.
Here's the problem right here. This is a timeline. I've done this and I'll send this to you.
Awesome.
This is a timeline. Here's when Muhammad died, right?
Okay.
632. Here's when al-Buhari died.
Wow.
870.
Wow.
How many years between here and here?
Wow.
240 years. Muhammad, Sahih Muslim. So this is Sahih Muslim, Tirmidhi, Majah, Dawud, and Nasi. These are the hadith writers. They only begin to write what they're writing down 240 years later.
Wow.
Between this time and this time is 240 years.
Wow.
There's the problem.
Wow.
So when Bukhari is writing this, he's talking about the 9th century. In the 9th century, there were dots and vowels. Al-Buhari is he wasn't even aware of the fact that there were no dots and vowels when he wrote this about Muhammad living in the 7th century, 240 years later. I'm sorry, earlier. There is the problem. He's talking about the problem from his day, redacting it back to what he thought must have been the problem then.
Exactly. Okay, I think that's the reason why Dr. Yasir says that the narrative, there are holes in the narratives. Because by the time you begin to take it...
This is just one of those 5 that Hattuns has drilled into her Quran. So that's the first hole, okay? Hole number 1.
Right. Okay.
Let's finish off this hole because we haven't drilled it all the way through. Look and see what it says next. Because after the Zaid ibn Thabit writes this Qurayshi dialect, right? After he writes this Qurayshi dialect, what does Uthman do next?
Okay,
he does 2 things.
Okay.
First of all, he takes all the other Qurans from all the corrupted dialects, which is from Basra, Kufa, and Damascus, from Iraq and Syria, and he burns them.
Yeah.
Now, Korede, about 10 minutes ago, I asked you what is a dialect and where and how is the dialect formed in the 7th century, and you said this is oral, right?
Definitely.
That dialects are just oral.
Yeah.
Can you burn oral dialects?
No, you can't.
Unless you burn someone's tongue, unless you burn the person, you cannot burn oral dialects.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that means you're burning something. You're burning paper. You're actually burning books. You have to burn books. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So obviously, al-Buhari thought that there were books there. Al-Buhari thought that these dialects were in written form. Al-Buhari assumed that the dots and the vowels were there to make a difference from one book to the other. Al-Buhari assumed this was going on right here.
Wow.
What do I have here?
These are the Quran.
These are qira'ats, and you've got them as well because I had you go and get them, didn't I?
Yes.
And you paid a pretty penny to get yours, didn't you?
Yes, Dr.
These
J.
are not cheap, folks.
Yeah.
But every one of these are Qurans.
Mm.
Every one of them has a different name on them.
Yeah.
Because they're written by different men.
Yeah.
Every one of them disagrees with the other.
Mm.
There's not two alike. And I only have 8 here.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. 9.
Okay, with the
I have
apps.
9.
Okay, with the apps. All right.
It's right at the top. The smallest one.
Yeah.
There are 30 of these. There are 30 of these in existence. Hatun, my colleague, has all 30 of them.
Yeah.
You can buy them today.
Mm-hmm.
This is what Al-Bukhari was assuming.
Mm.
Al-Bukhari in the 9th century was assuming that there were many different Qurans. Why? Because he's living in the 9th century.
Mm.
This Quran right here, let me just show you this one here.
Okay.
This is Ibn Amir's. This Quran was written in 736.
736.
Al-Bukhari died in 870.
Wow.
This is 130 years before Al-Bukhari. Can you see a problem?
Exactly. Yeah.
And he would be aware of this. He would know about this.
Exactly.
Oh, well, here's another one. This is Warsh. This is Warsh.
Warsh.
He died in 812. Here's another one.
Yeah.
He died in 812. Al-Bukhari died in 870.
Mm-hmm.
So Al-Bukhari would be aware of this. In fact, Al-Bukhari would be aware of every one of these 8 right here because these 8 already existed. These 8 were existing a good 100 years before Al-Bukhari.
Wow.
By the time Al-Bukhari is living,
Yeah.
there were about 25 of these that existed out of the 30 that are made official today. So he would be aware of all these kids. In fact, what we're now finding that when Al-Bukhari was living, there weren't just 25. There may have been as many as 700 different Qurans.
Oh my God.
As 700 different Arabic Qurans. Why? Well, stop and think, Qadhi. If with just one little smiley face you can get 5 different letters,
Yeah.
what happens if you have 3 faces together, 3 letters together? Most all Arabic words have 3 letters. Okay? That's why when you open up an Arabic dictionary today, it's always the third person singular, masculine third person singular. Those are the root 3 letters of every word. And those 3 letters all have dots below and above, and they also have vowels depending on which way you say it.
Yeah.
Well, if you have 3 of them put together, you can come up with almost 19 different words depending on where you put those dots and vowels.
Yeah.
If that's just with 3 letters, what happens when you have a whole string of 3 letters to make up a verse?
Wow.
Let's say you have 20 words in one verse, and every one of them can have different letters and different ways of putting the dots and vowels. You can get a multiplicity of different variations, verse by verse by verse. What about surahs that have many verses in them? And what about 114 surahs? You can then see there is thousands of different variation.
Yeah.
Our team in London, headed up by Hatun Tosh, has already found 93,000 differences.
Wow. 93.
90,000 differences.
Wow. That's
and
a
these
whole
are
lot.
words and letters differences. Now, just these 2 right here, these are the 2 most popular Qurans today.
Yeah.
Isn't that odd for me to even say that? 2 most popular Qurans. Hold on a minute. I thought there was only 1 Quran. No, I'm just showing you 2.
Yeah.
These are the 2 most popular in the 21st century.
Yeah.
This is the Hafs. This is the Warsh. Okay?
Yeah.
The Warsh, this one was created by Hafs, who died in 796. This one was created by Warsh, who died in 812. So, just a few years later. There's just a few years between these, roughly 15 years or so between these 2 men who wrote these 2 different Qurans. These 2 Qurans, this is now is the canonical Quran for the whole world, made canonical just 35 years ago. So this was chosen for the whole world just 35 years ago, which already makes you older than this Quran. This one, however, is the most popular in North Africa.
Yeah.
In North Africa, this is the most popular. It's known as the Warsh.
Yeah.
How many differences would you guess between these 2 books?
I know there will be. I know there will be thousands of differences.
Remember, both these Qurans say that not one word, not one letter can be changed.
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Remember, the Quran says that this book is eternal.
Yeah. Yeah.
How many would you guess, or how many would you be comfortable with if you were a Muslim between these two books?
Okay, I'll be comfortable with just about 5 or 10. I think I can live with that.
Shame on you. If I were a Muslim, I would be comfortable with 0%.
Oh, I get what you're saying now.
Can you see why?
Yeah, because of the claim.
Because if you're telling me 5%, then how did God, how did Allah guard it?
Mm,
What does that say about Allah?
mm,
Immediately, what you have told me now by saying 5%, you have immediately said that man has changed it.
exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
Not one word. Remember, that's why they have been so insistent about this.
Mm-hmm.
Not one word, not one letter has been changed.
Yeah.
Because if even one letter is changed, that means God is not able to preserve his word. More than that, that means there's human intervention. Because by change, by definition, means human intervention.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Immediately, you're taking it from heaven down to earth. You're bringing this book down to man's manipulations, man's accretion. And so how many are there? How many different words? How many different letters? How many different verses between these two books? How about 5,000?
Oh my God, 5,000.
Between these two books.
Wow. Wow.
And you now see why when Mohammad Hijab asked Yasir Qadhi on June 8th, and he put his hand out there and said, which of these Qurans? Which one are you going to write on my hand? I have an open book here. I have an open sheet.
Yeah.
No words on it. Which words are you going to write? Will it be the Hafs? Will it be the Qalun? Will it be the Warsh? Will it be the Ibn Kathir? Will it be the Ibn Amir? Kasai? And he could have gone on to 30 of them. He could have listed. Remember the reaction of Yasir Qadhi? Remember his reaction?
Yeah. He said that
Dude,
it's not an easy
ask
answer.
me this question.
Exactly.
Please, don't ask me this question.
Come for my class.
About this we don't talk about this in public.
Wow.
If you want to do a deep dive and to become my student, then we can talk about it. But not in front of the camera. Not here. Not now. And remember Mohammad Hijab, he said, was this your crisis of faith back at Yale University 25 years ago? I love it. What did Yasir Qadhi say? No. It was a crisis of knowledge. Crisis of knowledge? Which creates a crisis of faith, right? No. I am absolutely sure that it has been preserved. I am absolutely sure that there has been no changes. There is the thought. It is absolutely. It is as good today as the day it was. Well, he could say created because there's no creation. It was never created. And you could see went into this what I call the Islamic dance. This is the dance they always do. They just repeat what they have been told. It's a memorized mantra, as we say in India. They're doing a mantra. It's just memorized. Don't question me with the facts. My mind is already made up. Now, he said, well, the way I explain it is that we put a line up here, a red line. And we have a respect for the Quran that we don't go beyond. We don't ask certain questions of it that far. Don't go any farther. This is called that red line of respect. But see, at Yale University, they don't have that respect. They don't have any line. They can ask any question they want. And that was the crisis that he came across when he went to Yale University in 1995, 25 years ago. He didn't know what to do with this question. Mohammad Hijab didn't know what to do with the question. Because he saw us hold up 26 of these. I've got a picture of it here. He saw us hold up 26 of these there at Speaker's Corner, and we filmed it. Here we are. That's us holding it up right there.
Whoa.
That's the Speaker's Corner. He was in the crowd. He was right there watching us. And that's why he went through a crisis of faith. Now, here are the 26. These are the 26 that we held up that day. Wow. Every one of them was written by a different man. Qadhi, let me ask you this. So how did they come to agree as to who was going to write what? And how did they choose these guys? Do you know how they did it?
No.
Well, how would you do it with the Bible? If you suddenly came across and suddenly the Sinaiticus was plopped there on your desk there in Nigeria, and then next to it is the Alexandrinus, and next to it is the Vaticanus, the three most famous of our manuscripts from the 4th and 5th century. What would be the first thing you do if this is the first time you'd seen the Sinaiticus?
Okay, so I'm just going to take a look at the manuscript. I'm going to examine one of them, one after the other. Take a look at the.
Okay, so you'll open it up, right?
Yeah, definitely.
You'll read it, right?
Definitely.
And you'll notice it's in Greek.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And what's the first thing you do? You open up to a known chapter, a known verse. You'll read that verse in Greek, and you will do what once you've read it?
Textual criticism.
Okay, define textual criticism.
Okay, so textual criticism is the study of instant manuscript. That is the manuscript that are existing at a point in time. Because we don't have the originals, we're taking a look at the manuscript to be able to get back to what has been written by the authors. We wanted to know the exact thing that the author actually says. So that's why we're taking a look at the manuscript that are available at a point in time.
So you go to the oldest manuscript you have, which I mean it's closest to the event and when it took place. So you go to the, if you don't have the original, you go to that which is as closest to the original.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Well, we don't have any original Quran, right?
That's true.
The top copy is the best you can get, right?
Mm-hmm.
The top copy, this one I have right here.
Yeah. In fact, I've had.
What do you think the date would be for this manuscript?
For the top copy, can't guess about that now. Can't guess, but I've seen some Muslims actually saying that.
Just come up with in the last 3 weeks. I've just found out. Guess what the date is for this manuscript?
I want to know, Dr. J. Just tell me.
749.
Wow.
749.
Wow. 749.
What's the date? What's the date for Ibn Amir? 736.
Wow.
So this predates this.
Wow. 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 Wow.
This one here predates this one here. But this one I have in my hand, right?
Yeah.
I don't have any manuscript for this guy.
True. True.
When was this guy chosen?
Wow.
He was chosen in 936 by Ibn Mujahid. Ibn Mujahid is the one that chose him. Did he have a manuscript in front of him? Not at all. So how did he choose Ibn Amir? How did Ibn Mujahid choose this guy as the very first of all the Qurans? He didn't open a page. He didn't open one and look at one word. He didn't look at one sentence. Why? Because that was not his interest. The reason he was chosen, the reason that Ibn Amir was chosen, out of 700 others. Remember, there were 700 he could have chosen from. He chose 7. 7 out of 700. He chose this guy because this guy was popular.
Wow.
Because he had more students than anybody else.
Wow.
It was a popularity contest. It had nothing to do with the text inside. No one even read a word. They didn't need to read a word. All they needed to know is how many guys did he have following him who actually understood him. But see, here is one of the guys that did follow him. Here is one of the guys that's in the same stable. This guy, Warsh, is from the same stable. No, sorry, not this guy. Sorry, I got the wrong one. I'm talking about Nafi. So Ibn Kathir, do I have any Bazi? I don't have any of the guys from his stable. Okay. But the 2 guys from his stable are Al-Bazi and Kunbul. Okay. I don't have Galbazi and Kunbul. Yeah. I'm still waiting for it. But if you look at Al-Bazi and you look at Kunbul, are they the same as this guy? No, they're not.
Wow.
They don't even have the same text.
Wow.
They have hundreds of differences between them. So why were they chosen as his 2 students? They were chosen because they had many students. It had nothing to do with textual critique. They did no textual analysis on any of these.
Wow.
All they did was chosen for popularity. And this is the problem that we're finding. Now, I've got my screen has suddenly gone blank. Am I still on?
Yes, you're still on, Dr. J. You're still on. You're still very much on. In fact, I discovered that right now we have done 50 minutes instead of the 40 minutes you're supposed to do. I guess I'm just getting glued with this lecture. I'm learning a whole lot, and I can see a lot of people right here in this chat doing the very same thing. I think now we're going to be taking questions because I can see a couple of questions right here. So would you mind if I read some of them out to you?
Please.
All right. So I'm gonna be starting with the one right here on YouTube. There is a fellow by the name what's the name again? So the name is JSS. All right. So JXX. and that's JSX 3891, and he's asking a question. He said, as apologies, can we access the translation of the Birmingham Quran online? I believe that question is for you, Dr. J. Is asking if we can access the translation of the Birmingham Quran. I believe that was the Quran that was discovered recently, the folios that was discovered recently. So, Dr. J, would you want to attempt the question?
Okay. He's talking about the Birmingham folios. The two Birmingham folios are just 2 pages of what now turns out it looks like it's the Petropolitanus, which is this one right here. These are 2 pages that should belong to this manuscript right here. This is the Petropolitanus one, which is there in the Bibliothèque Nationale in Paris, and that François de Roche really is responsible for. They were found in Birmingham, and that's why they're called the Birmingham folios, just these 2 folios for chapter 18, 19, and 20. There's only 33 verses in them, so it's only about 33 verses out of 6,000. I think I'm right. I may be right. I don't have it in front of me, so I don't know exactly how many verses, but it's just a very small amount of 3 different surahs. In fact, they don't even cover the surahs that the surahs are not complete. They're just bits and pieces of the surahs, 18, 19, and 20. And they took them down to Oxford Lab. And in Oxford, they carbon dated them, radiocarbon dated them, and the dates they gave to them are 568 to 645. 568 was 2 years before Muhammad was even born. 645 is 7 years before the Quran was finally canonized. So obviously you got a problem right there. Even if you get the earliest or the latest date, you've got a problem, because earliest it's written before Muhammad was born, and the latest date, the Quran had not yet been formed in the form that we have today. So this is a pre-Quranic text, which is not a problem. The only difficulty is, take a look at those stories. The stories are of the 7 sleepers in Ephesus. The stories are about the James the Lesser, and the stories about Moses. In every case, all 3 stories refer to earlier texts. They are earlier references. This has nothing to do with Islam. They have nothing to do with Muhammad. They have nothing to do with Mecca or Muslims or anything that should be Islamic. These are pre-Islamic stories. And in every case, these stories existed. Well, the story of Moses existed from 1400 BC. The story of the 7 sleepers existed from the 2nd century AD. So these would all be pre-Islamic. These are nothing more than borrowed. These are part of the borrowed stories of which the Quran borrowed. Remember, most of the Quran borrows these stories. So, but that's if we're going to go with the radiocarbon datings. If you want to go and trust the radiocarbon datings, why don't we look at the Sana'a manuscript? Because the Sana'a manuscript has been radiocarbon dated, and it's been radiocarbon dated in not just the Oxford lab, it's been radiocarbon dated in the Lyon lab in Paris. I'm sorry, in France, not Paris. Lyon is a city in France. It's been dated in Kiel, and it's been dated also in Switzerland. Zurich lab. Europe have dated the Sana'a manuscript, and look at the dates they come up with. Or from 434 up to 500. 434 up to 550, excuse me. 434 up to 550 for the Sana'a manuscript. Wait a minute. 434 up to 550, that's all before Muhammad was even born. That's all before the Quran even existed. That means they all predate Islam itself. So if you're going to go with this radiocarbon dating, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot, because that means that the Quran existed long before Muhammad. It had nothing to do with Muhammad. You need to be careful with radiocarbon datings. Radiocarbon datings are very inexact to begin with. Secondly, even if this were true, and these are correct radiocarbon datings, they are all about material that was pre-Islamic. No one doubts that the 7 sleepers predates Islam. No one doubts that the story of Moses predates Islam. No one doubts that anything in those 3 chapters predate Islam. By definition, the only reason they're in the Quran is because they were borrowed from other sources. So all you're showing is that these sources existed, that's a no-brainer. No one's questioning that. What I would like to know is, why is it that they can't find any Quran that is from the time of Muhammad or the time of Uthman? And where is this manuscript that they keep on claiming that's complete, 114 surahs? Because nobody anywhere, no scholar would accept that anymore. And with these earliest manuscripts that do exist, like the Topkapi, which is 749, or like the Sana, which is 705, has an underlayer, a palimpsest. What about the underlayer? Look at the underlayer. It has 60 verses, 63 verses with 70 differences in those 63 verses from the upper layer. Ooh,
Wow.
showing that even the lower layer doesn't agree with the upper layer, which doesn't agree with the Quran we have today. So this idea that there has been one complete Quran with not one word, not one letter. Now remember, these differences are consonantal differences.
Yeah.
And that's why Dan Brubaker's book right here is proving to be so damaging.
Okay, so there is another question right here that I want to put up to you. That's a Barfolari Sunday is asking this question. And here's the question he's asking. He said, question, now that this is coming to fore, now that this is coming to the fore, that the Quran, the Arabic Quran is more than one. What is your advice for the Muslims who seek the truth? So that's the question that Barfolari is asking. That since this information is coming to the fore, the Muslims are getting to know that there are more than one Arabic Quran. What would you advise, Dr. J?
The world now has finally realized that that which the Muslim scholars have been saying is proving to be a lie. There's no other way around it. They absolutely are lying. They've always known this. Listen, this problem with the Qira'ats has been known for 1,000 years. This is 838, 738, 805, 844, 809, 736. So they've been around since the 8th and 9th century. We're in the 21st century now. So over 1,000 years, they've known this problem. Why haven't they said something about it? Why haven't they told the world? And why in the world did they elevate the Quran to such a height that they're saying there's not one word, not one letter different? When they've had these qira'ats in their possession, you got them off the internet. I got mine off the internet.
Exactly.
You can buy them today. And you can see that there are tens of thousands of differences between them. So what I would say to Muslims is be careful of what your scholars are telling you. Be careful of what your imams are telling you. You can pretty much now say that there is not just one Quran. You can pretty much now say that there was no Quran at the time of Muhammad. You can pretty much now say that there was no Quran at the time of Uthman, that when the Quran started to be introduced in the 8th century, there was such a variety of them that this caused a dilemma by the 10th century, and that's why Ibn Mujahid had them, and that's why every one of these that they chose disagrees with each other. That's why in 1924, they had to go back to one again. They had to go back to one. And that's why the Hafs was then chosen in 1924, but only for Cairo. It was chosen for the whole world in 1985. So that's 35 years ago. Now, if I were a Muslim listening to what I just said, that would tell me there really is no Quran from heaven. This Quran does not come from heaven. It comes from man. And if that's the case, now can you see the problems with all the internal difficulties? Man makes mistakes. God does not. Man makes all kinds of errors. God does not. Man does stipulate that women can be beaten and that women can be raped and that a woman can be divorced and then given to another man and then returned again. That's man's thinking, not God's thinking. That I don't see in the Bible. A book that actually is consistent today as it was the day it was written down. A book that internally proves it comes from God himself. A book that you can use anywhere with anyone at any time in any place. Come on back to the Bible. We don't have these problems that you have because we don't make the same claim that you make about your Quran. We would never say this is eternal. Please don't say that. We know it was written by man. Therefore, it is open to, yes, there is a possibility there could be corruption. Men can corrupt. But we have 24,000 manuscripts to compare them with. 10,000 Latin Vulgates, 5,800 in Greek manuscripts, 9,000 from 11 other different languages. We can compare one with the other, and that's how we know exactly what our Bible is today. That's why 99.9% of the Bible is absolutely exactly like it is in the original. The only ones that are in question are 40 verses. There are only about 40 verses are in question. We know where those 40 verses are. And see, as Christians, we tell you about it.
Exactly.
We inform you. We even put a line saying, be careful, the next verses are not found in the earliest manuscripts. It's not that they're incorrect. It's just we just don't know if they come from the originals. That's why we warn the readers. Now, why hasn't Islam done that? Why haven't Muslims warned us about the 93,000 differences? 93,000, not 40. We're talking about 93,000 differences. Can you see that? Why haven't the Muslims told us that there were 5,000 differences between these two books? 5,000. And they're both authoritative today. Why haven't the Muslims told us that this book, the one that was chosen finally, is from Iraq? It's from Kufa. It's from the area that Uthman had burned. This is one of the corrupted Qurans. This is not Qureshi. Remember, we started with Qureshi.
Yeah.
This is not a Qureshi Quran. This comes from Kufa, which is hundreds of miles further north, and it was written in 796. Muhammad died in 632. This was written 144 years after Muhammad. Why did Muslims tell us this? And yet this is the Quran that everybody uses today. Thank God we don't have this problem with the Bible. So I would say to you Muslims, come on home.
Amen.
Come on home. You heard me many times. You need to come home.
Amen.
Come home to the real gospel. And this book you don't have to apologize for. This book you don't have to sit there and debate. This book you just have to give to people. Why do you think we translate it into every language of the world? Why is it that 93% of the world's population now can read this book in their own native tongue? Because this book saves lives. It doesn't say. Let me restate that. It doesn't do the saving. It brings people to God, because all the way through it, there's verse after verse, chapter after chapter, that just springs out and shows you how God loves you, shows you how God came. We don't have to die for our sins. God died for our sins.
Amen.
We don't have to work our way to salvation. God has done that for us. What a God that we have in that Bible. And that's why I say, listen, we don't even have to, we don't sit there and do a textual analysis of the Bible. We don't have to do that in our conversations, because we don't make the claims to have to support it. We've never said that we have the originals. We've never said that there are humans that wrote it. We've never said that because there's humans, there is a possibility for error. We've never said that. We've always admitted that. Yes, we've always admitted that. Therefore, we don't have a kira problem. We don't have an problem. And we pretty well know what the razm is of our text, because we have done our homework. We've been doing it since the 1800s.
Amen.
That's why Bible is the only book that has passed every one of these historical tests.
Amen. Amen.
Come on.
Amen. Amen. Dr. J, I'm so grateful about that. Now, I'm going to allow you go, because I know I've taken much of your time. I wanted to do this for 40 minutes, but we're almost going for 1 hour for you. Of course, it's because this is very important. It's a very subject that is very dear to my heart and the audience as well. And I know that a couple of Muslims are going to be learning from this as well. I mean, in Nigeria right now, most of the Muslims that will show the Quran, especially the Warash, the Ibn Kathir, the Amir, and all of those, they call it fake. I mean, it's ridiculous. They are calling this fake. Some of them have never heard about this before. They've never seen it before. They're just hearing it from us. And they say, well, for the fact that the Christian is saying this, is bringing this information to me, it has to be fake. It is fake news. Like Donald Trump will say, it is fake news. All right, so what I'm going to be doing, Dr. J, is that I would give you 2 more questions. I know your time is, you can just answer them very briefly. I'm going to be giving you 2 more questions. And the next question is coming from a brother in Niolua. And this is a brother that is doing great work in Nigeria as well. He's also an apologist. And here's the question he's asking. It says, hi, Dr. J, do you run a course for aspiring polemicists? So he's asking if you run a course for people that are aspiring to be polemicists. So, Dr. J, you can answer that.
Really, in fact, I am a director of a master's degree program at Veritas International University in California, where we have students right now. We're training them up. In fact, tomorrow night we'll be having another lecture, and then we have lectures every Monday, and we have lectures, and then we have recorded lectures on Wednesday. So we have a course up and running, but that's at the master's level. That's a much more academic degree. I'm not sure many people are ready for that yet. For those of you who want something that's much more populist, that's for polemicists who do not want to get a degree behind their name, the course that we use is the One Truth Project. The One Truth Project is the course that Beth Peltola is the one that heads that up. I work with her. This is a course that we've been doing for about 7 years, maybe 8 years now. And that is a 24 lecture course. It's already started. You can still get into it, and you can still apply for it. I think up until January, you can still apply and get the past lectures and then continue with the ones that are yet to come. Now, Tola is the one you need to go up online and just put onetruthproject.com. And when you go up there, you can see the courses and then send your registration in. You do it over YouTube. It's all on YouTube, or it's also on their website. Both ways, either on YouTube or on their website, you can get to them. So do you go up there on their website, go and apply for it, and get involved, because that will train you up in apologetics and polemics. Both of these courses, the academic one that's at viu.com, or sorry, it's ves.com if you're interested in, or I can send you the information on that, Qadhi. That's an academic degree. That is for master's level, and you will get a degree at the end of that, and you will then be able to then go on for a doctorate. We're going to be offering a doctorate in that area as well. That is for polemics and apologetics of Islam. The One Truth Project is also apologetics and polemics, but it's not academic. It's not at a master's degree level. It's much more on a populist level.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that, Dr. J. Now, folks, if you're interested in any of the courses, please, you can inbox me again, send me an email, and I will send you all the requirements, the information that you need to know directly that I'm getting it from Dave. So please, if you are interested, just send me an email. I will get all the information from Dr. J, and then I'll pass it across to you, Dr. J. So the last question here, because of time.
Let me just say real quickly, Qadhi, these are the only two courses in the world that teach apologetics and polemics that I'm aware of. Now, I know that Josh Lingell, there's another one that Josh Lingell is running, and that one is I Squared. I Squared has been in Nigeria, I think, and it is also apologetics and polemics, but it is all recorded. That is not live that I'm aware of. That is all recorded. There are some, I know that I'm involved with that one as well, but I do come in once in a while for a live lecture, but it's much mainly a quick Q&A period. So that's a third one that you can also go. It's called I Squared, I with a 2 behind it. Just go up online, go to I Squared Ministries, and you can register for that course.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that, Dr. J. So the last question that I'm going to be taking right here for you, it's is actually from Mikkel. Mikkel is watching from YouTube, I guess. Yes, watching from YouTube. So Mikkel is asking the question. I think he's actually asking the question from Facebook. So Mikkel says, do Muslims, not Muslims now, he says, do Muhammad has witnesses that Angel Gabriel gave him the Quran? So the question is asking is, do Muhammad have witnesses that Angel Gabriel gave him the Quran? So Dr. J, over to you.
This is a great question. I've never been asked this question before. The quick answer is no. No.